Learn English through story. The cost of pride. In a bustling city lived a man named Leonard, a highly respected businessman. Leonard had built his fortune from the ground up, working tirelessly to achieve success. He owned several businesses, a large estate, and drove the finest cars. He was admired for his discipline and sharp mind, but with his success came a growing sense of superiority. Leonard prided himself on being entirely self-made, and as his wealth grew, so did his belief that he was invincible. One afternoon, Leonard received an invitation to attend a prestigious charity gala. The city's elite would be there, and it was a chance to further elevate his status. However, the invitation also asked for substantial donations, which struck Leonard as unnecessary. He viewed charity as something for those who couldn't make their way in the world, not for people like him who had earned everything on their own. Reluctantly, he decided to attend but resolved not to offer more than a token donation. At the gala, Leonard found himself seated next to an elderly woman named Miriam. She was quiet but dignified, and while she didn't speak much, her presence commanded attention. The guests at the table admired her, and many spoke of the philanthropic work she had done throughout her life. Leonard, however, didn't see anything impressive about her. She had clearly inherited wealth, he thought, and hadn't worked a day for it. As the night wore on, the auction for charity donations began. The room buzzed with excitement as item after item was sold for astronomical amounts. Leonard watched with a sense of detachment, certain that these people were merely showing off their wealth. When it came time to pledge donations, Miriam stood and quietly offered a significant sum, far beyond what anyone had anticipated. Whispers filled the room, and Leonard, feeling the pressure of expectations, reluctantly stood and pledged a fraction of what Miriam had given. He noticed a few raised eyebrows but dismissed them, certain that his success spoke louder than any donation ever could. As the evening wound down, Miriam turned to Leonard and said softly, "You must be very proud of what you've achieved." Leonard, sensing an opportunity to assert his superiority, replied, "I am. Everything I've done, I did on my own. Hard work, discipline, and no handouts. That's how I got to where I am." Miriam smiled gently, her eyes filled with a quiet wisdom. "It's admirable to work hard and achieve great things, but tell me, have you ever considered the hands that helped you along the way?" Leonard frowned, not understanding her point. "I did it all myself. I didn't rely on anyone." She nodded thoughtfully, then asked, "Who taught you the skills you needed? Who bought the first product you ever sold? Who took a chance on your business when it was just starting?" Leonard hesitated. "Well, there were people who helped, of course. But that's different. They didn't make me successful. I did." Miriam smiled again, the kind of smile that comes with years of experience. "Perhaps, but no one succeeds entirely alone. Even the strongest among us needs the support of others, whether we recognize it or not. Pride in our accomplishments is natural, but it becomes dangerous when it blinds us to the truth that we are all connected." Leonard shifted uncomfortably in his seat, unsure how to respond. He had never thought of his success in that way. To him, everything he had achieved was the result of his own grit and determination. Sensing his discomfort, Miriam continued, "I used to think like you, Leonard. I believed that my fortune and status were the results of my own efforts. But life has a way of humbling even the proudest among us." Leonard raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite himself. "How so?" Miriam's gaze grew distant, as though she were looking into the past. Many years ago, I was in a position very much like yours. I had everything: a wealth, influence, power. I believed I was untouchable. But then, my husband fell ill. No amount of money could buy back his health, and I realized, in those long, painful months, that all the things I had once valued meant nothing. What mattered were the people who stood by me: the friends, the nurses, the doctors, and even strangers who showed us kindness. I realized that we are all vulnerable, no matter how much we have, and that the true measure of a person is not what they've achieved, but how they give back to the world. Leonard sat in silence, the weight of her words sinking in. He had always seen charity as something for the weak, for those who couldn't stand on their own. But hearing Miriam's story, he began to understand that wealth and success weren't shields from life's challenges. They were tools that could be used to make a difference, to lift others up, just as people had once lifted him. The gala ended, and Leonard returned home, but Miriam's words stayed with him. Over the next few weeks, he found himself reflecting on his life and his choices. He began to see the truth in what she had said. He hadn't made it entirely on his own. His success had been built on the support of countless others: his mentors, his employees, even the customers who had trusted him in the early days of his business. One day, Leonard found himself back at his office, reviewing a proposal for a new business venture. It was a risky investment, but it had the potential to make him even more money. But instead of excitement, he felt a strange sense of emptiness. He realized that no matter how much wealth he accumulated, it would never fill the void left by his pride and isolation. In that moment, Leonard made a decision. He would use his success not just to enrich himself, but to help others. He began by increasing his donations to charities, supporting causes that mattered to him. He invested in his community, providing scholarships for young entrepreneurs and funding local initiatives. Over time, he found that giving back brought him more satisfaction than any business deal ever could. Years later, Leonard sat at another charity gala, this time as a guest of honor. As he listened to the speeches and watched the auction unfold, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. He had finally learned the lesson Miriam had tried to teach him that night: that true success isn't measured by what we achieve for ourselves, but by what we do for others. In the end, Leonard's greatest legacy wasn't his wealth or his businesses. It was the lives he had touched, the people he had helped, and the difference he had made in the world. And with that, he found a sense of peace he had never known before. The peace that comes from knowing you've lived not just for yourself, but for the greater good. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you enjoyed, then please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.